Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, hello. My name is Nik Leland, and I make movie reviews and documentaries on movie history, and for today's review, we're going to talk about James Whale's 1935 movie, The Bride of Frankenstein. So this movie picks up immediately after his 1931 Frankenstein film and follows both the monster, once again played by Boris Karloff, and Henry Frankenstein, who's once again played by Colin Clive, on their respective journeys. The monster on the run from angry mobs, and Frankenstein being tempted back into bringing life to the dead by his old professor, Dr. Pretorius, played by Ernest Thesiger. Now, this was one of those movies that I reviewed a couple years back, but I didn't like the quality of a lot of my older work, so this is one I want to also provide a more in-depth analysis, if you will, and also share a couple of fun facts about it. The first one being the fact that this movie happened at all. James Whale was adamant about not making a sequel to Frankenstein and only conceded after the studio had begged him for years by this point. I'd argue it shows how professional of a filmmaker he was, since it's not a movie you'd ever suspect someone of not wanting to do. Bride of Frankenstein wasn't just another success for Universal Studios, but it also became arguably Whale's most iconic film. It adds much more into the tragedy of the monster from the first film, mainly thanks to the performance of Boris Karloff and the makeup by Jack Pierce. When watching these movies, especially with all the chaos going on, it's easy to forget that he's literally a baby in a tank, given the fact that he's born from different body parts and couldn't speak in the 31 film. In this film, he learns to speak at least somewhat with the help of a blind man played by O.P. Heggie. It's a beautiful section of the story that pays homage to Mary Shelley's novel, since that was how the monster originally learned speech in the original story. In the movie, he shows up wounded and the blind man comforts him with rest and friendship. He teaches him that there's good and bad things in the world, and you feel for them as they find friends in one another, one being blind and another having trouble speaking. And their friendship only ends up ruined when hunters accidentally stumble onto his cabin and attack the monster. It's a comforting scene that's torn into a heartbreaking one with one of the main themes from the film and Mary Shelley's novel. And that is the treatment of the monster wherever he goes and whatever he does, just because of how he looks. It's an ironic thing to think about, given this was a big hit, despite coming out at the time when the eugenics movement was at its peak. For reference, one of the movies I talked about a few weeks ago, Freaks, also tackled the concept of discrimination and how people were treated just because they were born different. Yet, that movie was banned for almost 30 years. So it makes you wonder if audiences at the time understood the point of this film, or if they did, if they even cared. It's also interesting to look at what they were able to get away with for 1935. One of my favorite examples is how, at one point, the mob ties the monster up and you see him carried like he's Jesus. And it also ties into the role of Dr. Pretorius, played by Ernest Thesiger, the guy who forces Frankenstein back into his experiments. He has several lines where he references Bible stories in a negative context, imagines how they would have been burned as witches at a time. It's surprising, given many religious groups were desperate to censor movies and use them as a scapegoat for the problems in America at the time. So, don't worry, not too much has changed over the years. But other than that, Thesiger is amazing to watch in this movie. He's just a really charming man, and it's impossible not to love him even when he pressures Frankenstein back into his work. He also does his own experiments early on in the film. We do actually get to see him show Frankenstein many humans he's made, including a queen, king, an archbishop, a mermaid, and a devil. It's a great use of special effects that holds up 90 years after the movie's release. It's also got a fantastic creation sequence with the monster's bride, if you will. And you see the classic laboratory from the first film, but they add on with gadgets on the top of the building, and you get to see how they zap life into her with the help of some kites. Now, this is where we will be getting into spoilers, but this movie has been up for 90 years, plus you've probably seen this spoiler coming. When she sees the monster, she basically says, "Not on your life," and rejects him. It's heartbreaking to watch because the poor guy can't catch a break, even with his own kind, if you'll pardon the term. It's the classic tragedy in these old school horror movies. The monster can't win. After everything he's been through, he's finally had enough and pulls a lever that destroys the windmill, killing him, Pretorius, and the bride, while Henry and his wife escape and survive. It's a sad ending, but offers some comfort given the monster is finally at peace. Until you enter Son of Frankenstein, where he's been in a coma for 20 years, but that's a review for a different video. In short, this movie is a blast. It's sad, funny, has great effects that hold up still in 2025, and it's one of the most influential horror movies of all time. Before I go, I want to thank you very much for clicking on my review of The Bride of Frankenstein if you enjoyed it. Again, thank you very much for watching, it really means a lot. And please be sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe so you can stay up to date with future movie reviews and movie history content. And if you have seen this movie, please be sure to let me know your thoughts of it in the comments below. And until next time, my name is Nik Leland, thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope you have a great day.